Me personally, if I could only choose one or stick with one of them, it would have to be. Hey, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to another video. I'm actually really excited to talk about this topic, but we're actually going to be going over different mastering boxes. I'm really not sure how to call this, but these boxes that you see right on top of this desk, these are some of the units that I will use to master some of my beats. Now, if this is your first time here, I do work with the MPC Live, the MPC One, and I just don't really like to mix in a DAW. Nothing wrong with mixing in a DAW, but I just feel like I have more inspiration when I'm producing / mixing. And these boxes right here just help the overall mix come together, and it just glues everything together. Very, very pleasing for me. But one thing I do want to let you know before I jump any further in this video, do not feel like you need any of these mastering units. I just love having them, and I have fun incorporating these sounds into my overall mix. The MPC sounds awesome. It has a great sound. But again, if you are able to have that flexibility in picking up one of these boxes or units right here, it could add a certain flavor to your overall mix. You might like the sound of it, or you might not like the sound of it. That's going to be up to you. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus a little bit more on this auto boom, since the last video I made on a mastering chain was with the analog heat, and a lot of people were asking if there's any alternative that's a little better in price. Some people were recommending the auto boom, and I got my hands on this one. A big shout out to Ricky. He did let me borrow this. This is actually the second time he lets me borrow this auto boom. The first time he let me borrow this unit, I got it out of the box, popped it open, got in my little corner right here, and notice this is going to be the big downside of the auto boom. I'll just let you know real quick before we jump into it, is this has no headphone jack. So if you're standalone with no computer, no speakers, and rely on your headphones, you cannot hook up headphones to this unit. You have to come out of this unit into interface and into your speakers. So if that's going to be a big issue for you, this is probably not going to be the best one for you. But I am going to be going over these other units and just kind of, I guess, comparing it. And at the end of this video, I will let you know if I had to choose one of these units, which one I would personally choose, or my personal favorite. So make sure you guys stick around and let's have some fun in this video. So let's jump right into it. Now, all these units have their ups and downs. I mean, there's not like one of these that has it all. Actually, there is the SP404. This is a special box right here that I will touch up on this at the end. But most of these will do one thing but not the other, so it's just kind of like choose what you want versus what you don't want. This auto boom is actually really interesting. Like I mentioned, the first time I got it, I just sent it back to Ricky because it just didn't have no headphone jacks. I was like, you know what, I'm not even gonna waste my time to dive into it. I need headphones. When I gave it a second chance and I brought it back and I actually hooked it up to my speakers and started exploring what this can do, this has some very, very powerful sound that it comes with. And I'm not sure if this is meant to be a mastering box, but it definitely will put your beat together in a very pleasing way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play back a beat that I have right here in the MPC. And right now, I'm just running signal through the auto boom. I'm not compressing. I'm not adding any drive or anything like that. I'm just going to just let you hear the beat, and then we're going to go through some of these settings. So this is just the beat raw coming through the auto boom. All right, sounds really good. The drums are just smacking through really nice. By the way, these drums are from my sample pack volume 2. So if you guys really like the sound of these drums, make sure you guys pick up that sample pack, link down in the description. Well, I don't know if you guys can see, and excuse me for the angle that I'm using right now with this camera, but I'll just read off what this is. Right here, you have a compressor. The compressor in the auto boom sounds really, really good. I actually feel like it is one of my favorite compressors, aside from the platform, which I'm going to get into in a bit. It also has this drive knob, which the drive knob will add some saturation to whether it's meant for your drums or your overall mix, but the saturation drive right here just sounds really good when I drive the entire mix. I'm not pushing it to distorting very bad, but just a slight touch of drive will sound really nice. And it also comes with a filter. This filter sounds awesome. I've mentioned this before, but when you're dealing with analog filters, to me, they just sound different. They sound so much more pleasing versus a digital filter. This filter goes a long way. I'll show you guys how I'm using this filter in my mixes. And right next to this filter, actually right here in the top, you have this mix knob. This mix knob is actually very important because this is your blend knob, which you will be blending your compress, your driven signal with high cut, like that process signal with your clean signal. So if you kind of want to use like parallel compression or processing, you could use that with this blend or mix knob right here. And now right at the bottom right here, this has your overall output level. Just, you know, if you're driving it and compressing it, you might be adding some extra volume to the overall mix. So you could just lower down that volume right here and try your best to compensate for what you're doing. And at the very bottom over here on your left-hand side, you have this data knob. This data knob is actually really cool because down here you have some other settings that I'm going to get into right now, and you control these settings with this data knob right here. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to play back the beat, and as I play back the beat, I'm going to start off with the compressor. I'm going to start compressing the signal and show you guys how good this compressor sounds as I'm compressing. Oh, and actually talking about the compressor, there's one more thing I forgot to mention, which is really good about this, is that this also has sidechain compression. Sidechain compression on this is really nice. So if you guys want to use some sidechain compression right here, you're definitely able to do that. You will do that with one of these small cables. You hook it up in the back where it has the sidechain input, and it just starts working. Now, the way the compressor works, as I start cranking it up, I will start getting some compression. I do not know the exact numbers where they all land, but I just play it by ear. As I'm cranking it up, I will listen to it, and if it feels right to me, that's where I'll stop. As you will see at the top meter over here, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see it in the camera, this would be your input level. So this is my input level right here. That's how hard is coming, the signal is coming into the boom. And at the bottom, you're gonna see the compression meter. So that's gonna be my gain reduction. I'm gonna crank it up pretty drastic. So that's pretty compressed right there. I'm gonna go and leave it right there, and I'm gonna show you how to adjust the input and the attack and the release. So you go right here at the bottom, this is your attack button, and this is your release button. As long as you're selected on one of these, like right now I'm selected on the attack, I'll go into this data knob and I can adjust the attack. This is a fast attack right here, so everything is being compressed. As I slower down or lower down the attack, is giving a little more to the transients. I usually like a little bit of transients to go through. Now I'll go to the release. That's pretty choked up right there. I'm gonna let it breathe a little bit. Go for a faster release. Just about right there. I like how that sounds. I already adjusted my attack and my release. I'm just gonna get out of that, and I'm gonna lower down my compressor now. The purpose of this compressor for me right now is just to put everything together and control some of the dynamics of the overall mix. So when I do add a limiter at the very end, I don't have a lot of transients that is taking up all my headroom. So a compressor is actually really important for me while I'm mastering. And I feel like this compressor, you could go both ways. You could either crush it and just destroy your signal, or you could use it very, very soft just to control some of those transients. Now, after that compressor, I'm gonna go into this drive knob. This drive knob is really cool. There's actually a few different drive circuits. If you go right here, one of these settings, you got 4 different distortion settings. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit play. I'm gonna stick to the first setting of the drive, and let's crank it up and listen to what it does to the overall signal. I'm gonna lower down the output because it's obviously adding volume to the overall mix. Okay, that's where I'm gonna stop. The way I'm using these drive settings is I crank up the distortion till I start listening to those peaks distorting on me. Then I'll dial it back down just a bit so I can keep some of that distortion, but not overly distorted. What I'm gonna do right now, we just have the compressor and the drive setting activated. I'm gonna go before and after. I'm gonna turn off auto boom, and then I'm gonna engage it so we can listen to what we've done to the overall mix with these two settings. First, I'm gonna go with the settings, and then I'm gonna take it off. Okay, so to me, that's a big difference. I hope you're able to listen to it through the speakers. If you're listening on your iPhone, I'm not sure. But when it comes down to mastering, I'm not trying to switch up the entire beat to sound different. No, I will do that with mixing. In mastering, I'm just trying to do small, gentle touches that will elevate my overall mix or enhance my overall mix. That's the key word, enhance my mix. Now, moving over to this high cut filter, there is no low cut. There's just a high cut, or if there's a low cut, let me know if you guys know about this unit. This filter's pretty cool. I actually like this filter. I started falling in love with filters when I got into the analog heat. Just messing with these analog filters, to me, it just felt like it just feels different to me, and I love having it on the overall mix. It could sound really good. Not all the beats will use this high cut filter, but on some of them, I'm gonna hit play and I'm gonna start dialing up the high cut. Okay, there you go. That's nice. One thing that I'm going to say really quick is I'm using this as a mastering box, but I feel like it wasn't really meant for that. I mean, you could bring out just your drums, go into this auto boom, which I've done, and just, man, you could really destroy those drums. As a matter of fact, if I just solo these drums, again, I would do this by coming out of outputs 3 and 4 into the auto boom, coming back out of the auto boom into my mixer or back into the MPC. But let's just listen to the drums by itself. Compressing this, adding some drive. I'm gonna bring back down the mix. Without it, with it. Obviously, it probably sounds louder when it's engaged. That's one thing that I had mentioned, that this does not have like an auto gain compensation setting right here. So you're going to have to manually bring down the level as you're driving your signal harder, because it is going to bring up the volume, and you don't want to fool yourself, because I already know a lot of people are going to be saying that if I don't mention that. So keep that in mind. I did want to spend a little more time with the auto boom, because again, a lot of people were asking me about this unit. This auto boom goes around, I think it's like $650, $600. I'm not too sure. I'll leave the price somewhere up here, which is cheaper than the analog heat. I believe the analog heat is about $800 or $900, which it's a lot of money. It's almost the price of an MPC one. So my biggest downside is, my two biggest downsides about this boom, first of all, is no headphones. That one hurts me a lot because I make music in this small corner. The second one is just the fact that, again, I don't have an auto compensation output mix or level. Like when I'm compressing and adding some drive, it'd be pretty cool to have some type of auto gain reduction and just kind of match my input versus my output signal. Now, we just did mention some prices, which this right here is around $650. Now, there is this other compressor. This one's only $200, so it's a lot cheaper. And this is by far my favorite compressor out of all of these units. This is going to be the Electro Harmonics Platform. This is actually just a compressor. Well, it has compression, and it also has a drive setting, which you could drive your signal kind of like this auto boom. And then it also has this swell feature right here, which it adds kind of like a reverse effect. I don't know, it's not that good. I'm not going to be using it all the time, but every now and then I would reverse or add that swell effect to the overall mix to add some changes to it, but it's not that good. Now, when I would mix in the DAW and master my beats in the DAW, my favorite compressor for mastering was the SSL Waves compressor. That compressor just is by far my favorite compressor as a plugin form. And this Electro Harmonics is very similar to that compressor. There's two ways that I will use this. There's sometimes where I would just abuse this compressor and just smash my beats, and it just sounds so good, the pumping effect that it gives me. And there's a lot of other times where I'm just compressing it and using it as a compressor to control my dynamics. I don't really pay attention too much to these meters. I will, but not really, because I go based off of how it sounds. If it sounds good to me, I'm gonna rock with it. Even if this thing is being slammed all the way to whatever, it's hitting the red or the yellow, like I don't care about that. If it sounds good to me and it feels right to me, I'm going to commit to that sound. What I like to do is I'm gonna overly compress this, so you could listen to the compressor, and then I'm gonna adjust my attack and release. This is a slower attack, and this is a faster attack. I like to go for a slow attack, and then your release, I'm gonna go for whatever feels right to me. I like that right there. Now I'm gonna lower down the compressor. I'm gonna back off of it. But one thing that I'm doing right here is, again, I'm controlling the dynamics of the overall beat. There's some separation between the drums and the sample. So right now that I have it off, there's no compression whatsoever. The relationship between the drums and the sample is a little far apart from each other. And now that I'm going to add this compressor, you're just going to notice that it's going to glue a little more and come together with my drums and my sample. I'm going to play one bar without it, and the next bar I will engage it. Okay, so that right there, again, this compressor right now is not changing the entire mix. It's just gluing the mix together and is allowing me to bring up the overall volume because I'm controlling these transients a little better versus not having one of these compressors. All right, so I just wanted to run down a little bit of that platform and show you guys. The reason why is because the platform also has a very powerful compressor that's similar to the Auto Boom, and I wanted you to listen to that compressor. Moving over to these units that I'm probably not going to turn on for this video, but I do have videos on these. The analog heat, I'll leave a link somewhere up here. You guys can watch my video on this analog heat. This analog heat does not have a compressor. This thing is very powerful, but it does not have a compressor. The Performer, I also did a video on the Performer. You guys can watch a video somewhere up here. It does have a compressor. Not only does it have a compressor, but it also has a sidechain input. And it also gives you a lot of CV connectivity. If you're some type of modular person that wants to connect different modules into this, I feel like this Performer is so fun to use. And then this SP404, this SP404, this thing is really good. This also has a compressor, but the SP404 just gives you so much for what you pay for. I just feel like they underpriced this box for, I think it's like $400. This thing is, if you want your bang for your buck, the SP404 is the way to go. And now if you're just watching this and saying, hey, you know what, I would only want to pick one, but which one would I pick if I could only choose one out of all 5 of these mastering boxes? Me personally, if I could only choose one or stick with one of them, it would have to be the analog heat. The analog heat by far is the sound that it's the priciest one, but the sound is so worth it. This is my favorite mastering box. If I could only choose one, it'd be the heat. And the heat does not have a lot of settings. The 3 main settings of the analog heat that draws me to it and that make me fall in love with it is this different drive coloration that you can choose from, the high pass and low pass filter that it comes with, which sounds amazing, and This EQ, this is a 2-band EQ. This is your low frequency and your high frequency EQ. Let me just tell you real quick, for mastering this EQ, I don't know what it does, what frequencies is boosting and gaining or taking away, but this gentle touch is all I need for my overall mastering mix. This drive setting, a EQ, and this filter. With those 3 settings right here, this thing can do a lot more than that, but with those 3 settings, that takes it home for me. That's what I would stick with. The compressor, I'm okay to use a compressor plug-in in the MPC. That's totally fine with me. I'll rock with this if I could only choose one. So anything below $500, if that's your budget, I would go for the SP404 Mark II. I feel like the SP404 Mark II is so powerful. It's underpriced. It gives you so much for $400. Is a sequencer, a sampler, a mastering effects unit, a compressor, drive, saturate. It's just so much in one box. I know I say if I could only choose one, it'd be the heat, but if I could only choose one, it'd be the heat and sneak in there the SP404 because the vinyl simulator, oh man, there's just so many effects like that it comes with in this box that it's really good for the price. I definitely, if you're on a budget, go for the SP404 Mark II. Is worth it. Now, with all that being said, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, these are additional units and they are a luxury to have. I'm not going to lie. I love the way they enhance my music, but I do not need to have them to create music. Obviously, if you could only choose one piece of gear in this table, it'd be the MPC, because with the MPC, that's how I produce, I record, I sample, and also the MPC has the compressor, it has a limiter, it has those features. But if I have the extra wiggle room to purchase an extra mastering box, I would choose out of the ones that you see in front of this or on top of this desk. But again, this right here, the MPC, it is the centerpiece of my entire studio. Thank you so much for sticking around and taking your time. If you guys made it to the end of this video, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up. I'll catch y'all on our next video. Peace.